everyone, and welcome to Armstrong in the Loop podcast. I'm your host, Seth Prentice. And today, I'm joined by Elvira Taylor, host and creator of the Doll Circle YouTube channel and co-host of Honey Nostalgia. Elvira, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Seth. I'm so excited. I love just talking about dolls and toys. That is the biggest part of my life.
Well, it's quite funny because, back-to-back episodes, I get to talk to people about the hobby of toy hunting, collecting, something I'm passionate about. And it doesn't come up in day-to-day conversations with most people. So for me, this is an honor. Elvira, what was the moment that started you off for your love of toys?
There'd be two moments. So I had one when I was younger, and then I had a resurgence when I started my channel 7 years ago. I actually started in the mid 90s with my mother. She grew up with Barbies, loved Barbies, and we, for some reason, was at a Walmart, and Toy Fairy Barbie came out. And I want to say it was about 1995. And for some strange reason, we both looked at her and were like, we're going to start collecting Barbies. And then after that, my mother has 1,100 Barbies now, over probably 1,100. And then my collection obviously has grown substantially over the years, especially with doing the YouTube channel. And then 7 years ago, toy creators became a thing on YouTube. And I started watching a lot of these people. And my friends were like, you're always out there. You're always doll hunting without filming. You're always out there collecting stuff. Why don't you just film things? You're an entertainer anyways. Like, you're always out there. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. So I shot a video at Toys R Us before I went out that night, and I posted it. And then I've been posting videos ever since.
There you go. And I must say, R.I.P. Jeffrey. I do miss Toys R Us immensely. As every time you drive past one that's closed down, it just breaks the heart that was that inner kid. So, did you get into the holiday Barbies, or was it just every Barbie?
My mother likes the holiday Barbies for sure. She is obsessed with holiday Barbies. She has all of the holiday Barbies except for the last few years. We collect everything. So anything Barbie related. For myself personally, I collect all dolls. I love everything from Monster High, Barbies, all the new dolls now, especially with so much stuff coming out. It's hard to keep up with sometimes. But for me, it's if I look at something and it sparks that little happiness in me, I'm stuck. I'm buying it. My mother is the one that's predominantly only Barbies, though.
Well, and the doll realm has completely changed too, as Barbie has had to reinvent itself many times, and now you're getting these, the LOL dolls and Monster High has come in to really shake up that circle.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I feel like, well, now with LOL and MGA as a company producing all these different doll lines, they're really giving Mattel a run for their money, because you have to think Mattel has been on the top for years. I mean, Barbie is over 60 years old now. She looks great still. And it's one of those things now where there is more competition out there. It's expected. I mean, people are coming up with different ideas. So MGA is really putting, like I said, a run for Mattel's money. And in the doll world, there is a lot of controversy. Like, some people love MGA. Some people love Mattel, and I love both, which is sometimes people want you to be polarizing. They want the drama, and there is a lot of drama in the doll and toy community. Everybody's always like fighting for different sides, and they're like, and it sounds silly to someone who is not in the community, but it's sometimes I'll be honest with you, occasionally we get some messages from different followers, and people are very like, you have to pick a side, you have to like a certain company, and then they'll give you 10 reasons why they're so much better. But I agree that Barbie, I feel like, for being at her age, has done well with still being relevant. It's hard. Most toys, they're on one shelf this quarter, this season, they're gone the next. And for a company to have a line like Barbie still around after 60 years, to me, is just amazing still. So I always like giving credit where credit's due.
Well, and most toy lines have actually, fallen off at some point. I think Hot Wheels and Barbie are the 1-2 that have consistently stayed true to their brand and haven't ever gone away.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I mean, Mattel has brought in other lines and licenses to try to keep Mattel going, of course. They have like American Girl, which I just started getting into. And, so they do have other lines. But unfortunately, like I said, it's very hard to compete with some of these other companies that have such strong doll and toy lines. Like, for example, LOL is a billion, I mean, like blowing Barbie out of the water some seasons. And you think back, you're like, wow, nobody could ever compete with Barbie in the doll world. And yeah, they can. You know, it's just staying up with the trends and, like you said, reinventing themselves. Barbie has done, but it's difficult though. It really is, especially with
And,
MGA. They've been getting it. So
well, and it's hard because there's only so much store shelf space, and the
yeah.
fact that other brands have come in and pushed, Mattel to the limit or Hasbro to the limit. If you go down, some of the male action figures, it's incredible that there are competing brands. Jazzwares has come out of nowhere and really put a hurt on the business for some of these companies.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, even Jazzwares has made a few dolls. For example, like Hotel Transylvania, that animated film, they made dolls for that, and the dolls did fairly well. They did. Like I can't say anything. I bought all of them. So it's like one of those things where there are a lot of companies trying to, like you said, competing for the shelf space. It is difficult. I feel bad for new and upcoming brands because unfortunately, when it comes to Walmart, Target, other larger distributors, they want to only deal with the big companies that guarantee them money because they know Barbie's going to sell. They know like a newer line, Rainbow High, is going to sell. They know that LOL is going to sell. Oh, but this new brand, like I'm working with a new company called Fresh Dolls. Literally, when I'm there, they've won. They have won, and it makes me so sad because the company is great to work with. They have diversity, they have inclusivity with skin tones. Like they're really doing something different for the toy world. But unfortunately, Walmart's like, or Target, they're like, oh well, Mattel and MGA has shown us they can bring us money. Sometimes it's very difficult. It's very sad when you're like, oh, but they can maybe do it. You have to give them a chance, but it's getting that chance to be on the shelf, which is difficult.
Well, your brand's been around now for 7 years. Have you become an influencer for some of these toy lines?
Oh yeah, no, definitely in the past, like I don't like tooting my own horn, but I feel like when it comes to advertising now, brands, especially over the 7 years, I've really seen a lot more companies outreach, not only to myself, but to other content creators, because that's where the advertising is now. I mean, yes, people still watch television. Yes, of course, people watch, a Nickelodeon station with commercials, but people really focus on, oh, let me go to YouTube and watch a review. Let me go to YouTube. And that's where now a lot of the marketing has shifted to. And when I talk to companies now, there are social media marketing people, employees with the companies that only talk to and focus on people who are on Instagram, who are on Facebook, who are on YouTube, because those are the people who have an audience now of many bigger than me, many bigger than me. And they're able to really, like you said, influence the community into buying that particular toy, depending on their opinion. And sometimes I do feel guilty when it's a doll and I'm like, you know what? Someone took the time to make this doll. Someone took the time to design this action figure. Someone took the time. And I'm over here going, ooh, this is ugly. but that's why my audience is there, though, because they want to hear the honesty. They do. I apologize to any Mego toy fans out there, but I did review some Mego action figures, the newer ones. And I was like, okay, after all these years, I would have liked to seen a little something different. And some people loved that I was honest. And then there's also going to be those people that are, diehard fans that will buy a product no matter what. I could say anything. I could say this is the worst thing ever. And people are like, no, but I'm a diehard fan. I'll buy it no matter what. But yes, the content creator and the influencer now is the new form of advertising for toy companies. It really has shifted so much.
It's incredible. When did you realize that you could share your passion of toys and collecting with the public?
When I started watching YouTube, I really saw that there were so many other content creators. At the time, there was a channel called Mommy and Gracie, which is now called My World. And she's actually my network manager. I am signed to a network. And I remember watching her videos of her and her child talking about dolls. And I was like, they're doing that. Let me see so that really sparked my interest, is like, oh wow, so there's this whole other world. Because I used to go in the 90s with my mother to FX toy shows, doll shows. So it was more in-person contact type of thing. And yeah, you would communicate, but it was never the same as there is with social media now, where you go on Instagram, you type in a hashtag of a toy and there's millions of pictures and you can click on those pictures and like it. And sometimes you'll have friends. And that's how I've now become really close friends with a lot of people through social media.
That's really cool. your YouTube channel has exploded. 7 years, 60 plus thousand followers. Your
Thank
content has evolved. It's amazing. Uh, can you give a brief description, for our audience so that they can come and check out your channel of, what all that you do for content?
A little bit of everything. I predominantly do a lot of reviews. Sometimes they're a little more opinionated. Sometimes they can be a little polarizing depending on the figure or the doll that I'm actually, like I said, reviewing. But that's what I'm doing right now. I used to do a lot more in contact type of things, but unfortunately with the pandemic, that slowed down a little bit. I still do toy hunts. So showing people what's new on the shelves. I do go out being safe, I promise. Early in the mornings, right when the store opens, I'll walk around and I'll take my camera with me and we'll see what are the new Barbies that are on the shelves. What are the other new dolls that are out? Is something difficult to find? So a little bit of toy hunting, reviews, a mixture of things. I do sometimes collab with different content creators. There's another content creator named Claudina who's much larger than I am. So I'm so honored to be friends with, and we'll do videos together and just kind of have a good time talking about toys. But I have spread my business a little bit further with now starting my own podcast that my friend is producing for us, and we'll do different topics of different styles of collecting. We also, of course, are on every social media platform you can think of, from Twitter, Facebook, Patreon. So basically, if you type in the doll circle somewhere, you'll probably find me somewhere out there.
Well, and what we'll do at the end of the show, we'll give a rundown as well, but we'll put it in the show notes so people can click directly
I appreciate
and
it.
go to your social pages. I do have to ask only because, as a collector, it might not be the same for your side of things, but the male shelf space for action figures has been completely obliterated during the pandemic. So I don't know if it's distribution issues or what, but are you noticing that for the doll side as well?
A little bit, not as much, because I do walk through the male side of toys, which for me, I like now that they're starting to blur the lines
Yeah.
of a lot of the toys. I do appreciate when sometimes I'll walk through what was traditionally considered the male aisle, and I'll see, like, for example, Toy Story 4, and I'll see the Little Bo Peep doll there, and I'm like, I love that. I love that they're not segregating a lot of those figures, because myself growing up, I loved all kinds of movies. I did. There was from RoboCop to anything. So it would make me sad where I'm like, oh wait, I have to walk down a different aisle to get all these things. So for me, I have noticed there has been, in toys in general, a little bit more difficult to find things. I don't think it has to do with distribution. I think it's because people are at home more. They're getting more time to collect. And when they do go out to get their groceries or whatever, and they stop down the toy aisle, they're buying more, either to, set up pictures or to have fun with or to put on their shelves. So I feel like they're selling more. I mean, Barbie's numbers, for example, last year has done better than what it's done before that. So, and people during a pandemic would think like, oh my gosh, everybody is suffering. Not everybody. I've even personally noticed my views went up because people are at home. They're getting back into their hobbies because they're like, well, I can't go on vacation this year. Let me stay at home and, play with my toys. And I think that's where some of that influence has come with why there's less on the shelves. Part of it's probably distribution as well, a little bit. But I think a lot of people are now spending the time at home focusing on, fun stuff in their closet and their dolls on their shelves and action figures.
And some of the things that I've enjoyed about, because I've watched a good bit of your episodes, especially preparing for this, mystery boxes, blind bags have become the way of 2019, 2020, 2021. And I think mini brands kind of was that big explosion, that market. But man, it's like everyone's in it now.
It is. I feel like, surprise boxes have been around for quite a few years now. I mean, remember even starting my channel and we would have like Blind Bag Monday, and I stopped doing that because it was so hard to keep up with. There was just so many surprise toys coming out. I was like, there's no way I'm buying all of these to keep up with. But I love the mini toy brands. I love the ones that are more detail focused. I feel like now there are still a lot of surprise toys, but the companies are trying to be a little bit more unique with it. For example, the larger LOL dolls, you know what you're getting. There's an outline of the doll, but it's still a surprise box when you open it. Each item when you open her handbag or her shoes, they're each unique, but you know the doll you're getting. So it's mixing the element of surprise, but still not a surprise. So they're trying to be more inventive with it. A lot of it also, I think, some people, including myself, would buy a whole case trying to get like the Funko Mystery Minis, and you end up with 3, of whatever character. And sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you get lucky. I will admit, I have been very lucky getting like a Shaun of the Dead figure, and it's worth $400, and I'm like, oh my gosh, totally worth the box. Totally worth it. So I think a lot of it is the companies are understanding the frustration of people spending all of this money on surprise toys, getting frustrated, not getting the ones they want, trying to come up with new ideas, but it's still there. I think there is a slight decline in surprise toys. A lot of us in the toy community have talked about it, that we're seeing a shift out of it, but it's still there. It is still there. Kids still love it. I think it's that Las Vegas moment where like you're like, oh, am I gonna get straight sevens? It's like it's kind of like mixing that emotion into it.
And I've been down through that pain before. I have some of the Funko ones myself, and let me tell you, there's been some big whammy, no money type deals, but there's also been a lot of times where I'm like, oh, that was terrible.
Are you a big Funko collector yourself?
I am actually. I recently sold one of my Funkos. I had it from the 2011 San Diego Comic Con. It was a Captain America metallic one. Sold for over $2,000.
Wow.
Yeah, but reinvested back into the collection. I have pops from the very beginning, and now I feel it's way oversaturated from where Funko used to be. But I still try to get the ones I enjoy.
I'm in the same boat. I used to have a much larger Funko collection because they were just getting me. They were like Sailor Moon and like all of these characters that I love. And I was like, overwhelmed. I had to cut back to now only buying horror toys and sci-fi because I really love horror movies and sci-fi, especially from the 80s. So I've had to narrow down because there's I agree. The toy, whether it's Funko or different companies, sometimes they're like, oh, is this working? Okay, well, we'll make every character out of every show, out of every ad. I mean, they even made Spam. Have you seen that? The can of Spam? Yes. And I'm just like, really? Spam? Who's that person who's just so excited about Spam that they have to have a toy about it? But you know what? There's that one person who loves it. And it's just one of those things where it's just so silly. But yeah, I agree. It is getting saturated. I hope they slow it down a little so we don't lose it, because I think sometimes when brands get so saturated, people are like, this is too much for me, and get out of collecting. And that happened for me a little bit with Funko. At one point, I think I had not that many. I say not that many, and it's like 120 of them. And I've cut it back now because it was just too much. It was just too much. And that makes me sad when a brand does that sometimes, where it's just like pumping it out and you can't keep up with it.
Well, and I noticed that when they started doing the massive ones, and I was like, what are you doing? And they would just pick such obscure ones, and they're just sitting on the shelves at Target. I'm like, this is what's going to kill this brand. But you know what? They still find a way. Granted, I do love the massive size Kool-Aid Man that they made last year as an exclusive. Didn't buy it, but it's still one of those things that makes you laugh when you see it.
Yes, I agree. I love that. That's why I like certain ones that are quirky. I mean, I apologize for anyone out there who's a big Spam fan. It's one of those things where it just jumps at me and I'm just like, that's fun. And same thing with like the giant Kool-Aid Man. I thought that was an interesting idea to do, because there's probably a lot of people out there who grew up drinking Kool-Aid, and then they see that and they're like, I need this in my kitchen, or I need this in my toy room. And so I feel that I'm the same way as well with certain figures or things that I would never have thought I would never thought that I needed. And I end up going to a store and going, oh, okay, fine, get in the cart. I'm going to take you home.
Well, but here's a question for you: is shelf space. How do you have enough shelf space for size? Some of them are 8-inch, some of them are the 12, 18-inch. At some point you're like, I just can't do it anymore.
Oh yeah, no, as a collector, that is something I know I've faced many times. My friends have faced many times. My friend's apartment literally is just a museum. I'm not even kidding. He's made little nameplates on each shelf. Like you walk around, I'm like, this is amazing. We should start let's get tickets going, and we'll just start charging people to walk through, and then you make all your money back on your collection. See, it's innovative. And that's one thing that my friend and I, Robin, who I've known for 20 plus years, and she's in a lot of my episodes, and we've discussed many different styles of collecting. Some people, are out of box, in box. Unfortunately, some people have to keep things in closet, but then you rotate your shelves. I feel like that's a healthy way. I've done that a few times where I do have some of my closets full of dolls, not going to lie. But they get rotated. Like, so the other day I was like, I'm going to look at my vintage Barbies today. And I took out all of them. So a lot of it's with rotation. But I always tell everybody, regardless of value, if you're going to have something in your collection, make sure it's something you like looking at. Because if not, you're gonna regret it in the long run. Because either you're not appreciating it because you're not looking at it, then at that point, let it go. Let it bring joy to somebody else, and then you put that into your collection for something that you want to look at. Rotating shelves is a big thing. Closet, shelf, rotated every month. It's like almost you're getting a new collection every month. keeping it fresh.
I never thought of that. And I'm going to spin this off. Keeping it fresh is your look for your episodes of the Doll Circle. No two episodes are ever the same. You really get into the episode, the character. I mean, right now you're full blown Barbie, and people at home can't see it, but that's just you. And how did you incorporate being so innovative with your appearance?
A lot of its influences from my friends. One of my dearest friends, Claudina, is a makeup content creator and a doll creator. So mixing the two worlds together, just absolutely fabulous. Every single episode I can never live up to. I used to get a little bit more into it when I was performing. I would come home after performance. I'd have makeup on, my wigs on, and I'm like, okay, time to film at like midnight. And so that kept it a little bit more unique. Recently with the pandemic, I'm stuck in the house. So I'm more limited on how outrageous I can look. But for me, I love playing with makeup. I love dressing up. That is the performer side of me. Growing up, I've always been a dancer. So it's just one of those things that have come natural to me. I'm like, oh, is this a Barbie? Well, I better wear my blonde extensions and put on pink eyeshadow because I want to look like her. And I feel like that's as you're a child and you grow up, I feel like you always look at your toys and you kind of aspire to like, I want to be that superhero. I want to be that Barbie. And for me with makeup and wigs, it's like, I'm living that in my room with a camera in front of me, but it's happening in some small little way.
Do you get a lot of, younger girls that reach out and just say how much they adore you and love what you do because, you're sharing something to them that, especially at a younger age means way more than what we could imagine being adults?
Oh, I get messages from all ages and all genders and cultures. Like sometimes I get people from South Africa, and she's like, I'm just so grateful that I see someone who's an adult who collects. Her herself, she's never told me her age, but she looks at someone middle aged, and it's one of those things where it makes me sad that we can't just be, oh, you collect something, cool, have fun with it, regardless of gender, regardless of any of that. And so I do get a variety of messages, and sometimes it is heartbreaking when I get either fan letters or messages through Instagram of a child who's 10, 11, 12, and they're almost ashamed. And it just pains me because I'm like, you're in the age where you should be having fun. You should be playing with toys, And they're like, oh, I have to hide my toys from my friends because they bully me and they say I'm too old. And then I always kind of joke, I'm like, don't worry, I'm 3 times your age or 4 times your age. So I'm just like, and I'm still in it. And they're just kind of like, they laugh and they're like, okay, It's almost like YouTube and social media has created, in some senses, a positive outlet for those people, whether they're adults or children. And it's like, it lets them almost have that virtual friend where they're like, oh, well, you're playing with a Barbie, so it's okay if I play with a Barbie too. And again, it is heartbreaking when you do get those sad messages of people hiding their collections from their friends or their families, which is just even, I can't imagine, because my mother is so accepting of it because she buys stuff. My dad and his wallet, not so much, but he sometimes is like, oh, does she need that other Barbie? Yes, she does. So the social media has created almost like that, like you said, that positive virtual outlet. There's always negativity with it, but there is a lot more positive than negative, I feel like, that comes out of it.
Well, I can't end this episode without talking about Honey Nostalgia. You and Nick have done an amazing job on season 1, and a little bit of exciting news here. And one of the main reasons we wanted to have you on is to share the exciting announcement that the Armstrong Neighborhood channel will be airing all past and present episodes, starting with the debut of season 2, which will be happening next week. How exciting is it to know that you'll not only be on YouTube, but now a television star as well?
I love it. Nick and I were texting last week and we were talking about it, and it's like, what a cool moment. We're going to be on a TV guide somewhere, whether it's like a scrolling on the TV or physical on paper. It's just one of those things where growing up someone who was, watching TV, and TV was such a big influence for me, and movies and everything. So it is very exciting to be on a different platform because yes, I've been on YouTube, but TV is just like, oh, you're reaching a whole different audience, different demographic, different people. So I'm really excited about that. Just branching out is always so exciting. And I'm very grateful for Nick, because Nick and I became almost like accidental friends in this world. We really wasn't planned. And when he told me he had this idea and he's like, oh, do you want to be a part of it? I was like, I would love to be a part of it. I would love to talk about different things than what I talk about on my channel. So it does add a little variety for my fans. So they're going on to a different show and not seeing me repeat myself, which I love. I love talking about something different that I normally don't discuss. In one of our newer episodes for season 2, I talk about retro video games, and I don't really bring that up in my channel. So it's giving me this different outlet to express myself in a different way. So I'm so grateful for Nick, especially because this is, I'll give it's his baby that I'm just a part of. And I absolutely love it. And I'm so excited. I hope people enjoy it and enjoy watching it.
So we've heard Nick's path to how things happened and lined up. Now, what's your side of the story to perfectly match everything together? Were you looking to be on TV at some point, or did someone just call you out of the blue and say, hey, we'd love to put you with this, Yinzer up in Pittsburgh?
A little bit of both. Like I said, I love television. I love talk shows. I love watching, dating myself a little bit here. I love like Sally Jessy Raphael and the talk shows of the 90s. I was so sucked into those. And I've always wanted to be in some form of television. I think it's fun. I want to, have the camera on me at all times. I'm definitely an extrovert in that sense. So it was a combination of, I already kind of had that in me where I was like, all right, one day I'm going to do this. And they reached out and they're like, oh, so there's this guy in Pennsylvania. And they're like, his name is Nick. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll talk to him. And it ended up just kind of lining up perfectly for us to be friends outside of, unfortunately, the show that we were kind of going for originally didn't happen, which, hey, you know what? It didn't work out the first time, but now it's working out in his own project. And like I said, I'm just so grateful that he asked me to continue on his journey with hunting nostalgia for it. So a little bit of both.
Now, I do have to ask for your opinion, and you've gone a very positive route with it. How was it signing that deal, thinking that, here we are going to film a pilot, and then a pandemic hits?
I obviously I was sad. I'm not going to lie. I try to always stay really positive with things like that because, like I said, I've been a performer for a long time. I'm used to ridicule. I mean, if I told you half the stuff that people have said to me over the years, you wouldn't believe it, and that's just that's the way the entertainment business is. I completely understand that. Like one day, it's going, and then, like you said, a pandemic hits that was completely unexpected and, puts a pause and a damper on the time. But then that gave us time to focus on something else, which is now turning into a positive, especially being with Armstrong. It's like, yay, this is a step in such a big direction. And like you said, we're now having the opportunity to be on television and to reach an audience that maybe never would have even known I existed in this world. So it's exciting. It's exciting.
Now, your segment in the show, for those that haven't seen an episode yet, is called A Moment of Nostalgia. And how did you two work together to make your content match for every episode? Because you're not able to film together.
I know, unfortunately, we are far away. Being in different states does make it difficult. But in the world of getting to send and Dropbox people videos, I'm so glad that we're now in this world. Because you have to think, like 15 years ago, you want to film with somebody, it wasn't as easy as it is now. And we always ahead of time kind of like plan out. He's like, okay, well, I'm thinking about video games. Do you have something that you like talking about? He always gives me a heads up. So I'm not going in and I would never want to be unauthentic. I would never want to, discuss a topic that really doesn't mean something to me personally, especially for like my segment, for my moment of nostalgia. So we do talk ahead of time. We kind of go about like, okay, well, this one I want to talk about like McDonald's toys. So I talked a little bit about McDonald's Barbies last season, which I absolutely love. I have, I think, almost every single one of them. So I was like, great. So we do talk ahead of time. We plan that stuff out. We do map things out. We talk about like, okay, like what is it going to be? Do you want to talk about like He-Man? Do you want to talk about, and so we do plan ahead, just like any TV show.
Are there plans for the two of you to appear together on camera at some point once, things open up more in this world?
Oh, definitely. We've talked about it a lot. Obviously, we were hoping last year. We're like, oh, this will pass. You got to think positive. And here we are a year later, which is insane to think that we're still going through this unfortunate time. And and once things start clearing up, we do plan on getting together. Whether I go up there, he comes down here, and we film together something. I want to have that energy in one room because we're both very energetic people. So I'm hoping it works out. Yeah, I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be one of those things where once it starts simmering down in the world, I think we'll get together and film stuff. It just makes me sad that we haven't been able to do it yet. But like I said, with the world of Dropbox and editing, we can make the magic happen regardless.
Is there a certain topic that you haven't done yet on a moment of nostalgia that you're really dying to do? I know your Halloween episode was fantastic, and that hits.
I loved Halloween. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
I would love to do more horror. I love anything spooky. I know it doesn't look like it. Every time when I start talking about different things on my personal channel or on the Doll Circle, and people are like, there's no way. I'm like, no, my living room, I collect vintage and antique items like furniture. I collect a lot of memorabilia, things from like the late 1800s. I have weird books and Bibles and like crucifixes. And when you walk into my living room, people are like, and then you walk into my doll room and they're like, huh. But I love having a little bit of everything. So I would like to do a little bit more of the spookier, darker toys, movie influences, things of that nature. And then also a little bit of 80s sci-fi. Like I said, I'm a really huge fan of I have literally Kurt Russell figures galore. I love Kurt Russell. So anything sci-fi 80s related. So, and I know it'll happen. It'll happen. Every episode we try to be a little different. So I know on the horizon we'll have all this fun stuff for me. I love that.
Well, and our area is actually, pretty big in the horror genre because A Night of the Living Dead was filmed, here and the Monroeville Mall. And there's just a lot of history. And, of course, Tom Savini's still teaching students, in the makeup business as well.
Yes, I know. I need to get up there. This pandemic needs to finish it up,
No, I agree.
I would love to travel up there. I would.
Anything else that you would love to share with us today, or do you think we've hit it all?
We did a lot of stuff today in such a short time. I can't believe it. My biggest thing when it comes to collecting that I always tell everybody is collect because it makes you happy, collect because you want to enjoy those moments, and I feel like toys and dolls and action figures, all the collectibles in general, are ageless, and don't let anyone tell you that you shouldn't be collecting those things. It just breaks my heart when I hear people that, like we touched on before, was just like, oh, you're too old for that. You're too old for that. And I'm like, no, everything, I feel like if it brings you joy, collect it.
Well, that's it. Well, thank you, Elvira, for joining us today and sharing everything from the Doll Circle to your exciting news of hunting nostalgia on the Armstrong Neighborhood channel. We look forward to seeing all of the great episodes that you and Nick are producing. Maybe we can all get together for a toy hunt in the near future.
I hope so. I hope so. Meet everybody in person and not just through a screen.
That's it. Thank you. For Armstrong in the Loop podcast, I'm Seth Prentice, keeping you in the loop. Are you enjoying Armstrong in the Loop podcast? Great news! All past and current episodes are available on popular streaming apps and websites. Search Armstrong in the Loop podcast and subscribe today.